Who would believe it? A proud hunter, blinded by lies, cast his own wife and newborn into the raging storm. But that was not the end. For on a night when thunder shook the heavens, a wealthy chief found her crying in the rain, clutching her baby, shivering, abandoned. What he did next shook the entire village, left the ancestors whispering, and turned sorrow into a tale never forgotten. Stay with me, for this story will grip your soul, and you will not rest until you hear the end.
The night drums echoed faintly across the village of Umuocha, carrying with them the rhythm of stories yet to unfold. In a small mud hut at the edge of the village, a young woman named Adana cradled her newborn baby boy. His cries were like the beating of a small drum, fragile yet full of promise. But outside her hut, shadows whispered. The elders muttered about her fate, while women at the stream gossiped. For though Adana had brought life into the world, her husband, Obierika the hunter, had begun to despise her. Why? A rival woman in the compound, a sly in-law named Ngozi, had whispered venom into his ears, turning his heart bitter. Obierika, once proud and loving, now looked upon Adana with scorn. And so, on the very night Adana's child was born, the seed of sorrow was also planted. But little did anyone know, the seed of sorrow was also the seed of destiny. And as Obierika's heart hardened, Adana's trials were only beginning. Ngozi's words dripped like poison. She told Obierika, "This woman you call wife has brought you no honor. She hides behind smiles but waits to control your destiny. Cast her away before she ruins you." Obierika, drunk with pride, believed her. He turned cold toward Adana, ignoring her needs, scorning her efforts. The baby's cries at night seemed to irritate him more than they warmed his heart. The villagers watched in silence. Some pitied Adana, but dared not interfere, for Obierika was strong and his anger was feared. Then came the rainy season, when the sky split open with thunder and the earth shook with floods. On one such night, Obierika, consumed by rage, shouted, "Leave my house, Adana! Take your crying brat and go!" The rain pounded the thatched roofs, lightning struck a palm tree nearby, and barefoot, soaked to the bone, Adana stumbled into the night with her baby wrapped in a ragged cloth. But where could a mother go when even the gods seemed to be silent? The storm was merciless. Adana pressed her child to her chest, shielding him from the rain, though her own body shivered. Her tears mixed with the downpour, falling into the mud as she wandered aimlessly. She reached the crossroads, where three paths split into darkness. To the left, the bush echoed with the growls of unseen creatures. To the right, the flooded river roared angrily. Straight ahead, the lonely path wound deeper into the unknown. At that moment, lightning revealed a figure, a tall man standing at the crossroads, holding a staff. His cloak shimmered, though drenched, and his eyes glowed like fireflies in the night. He asked in a deep voice, "Why does a mother weep in the storm, carrying a child with no shelter?" Adana, weak and trembling, told him her story, and the stranger's reply was not what she expected. The man listened without interrupting. His face was calm, yet his eyes burned with unspoken power. He finally said, "Follow me," turning toward the path that led deeper into the night. Fear warred with trust in Adana's heart, but the baby stirred as if urging her forward. She followed. They arrived at a grand compound, with walls taller than any she had seen. Servants opened the gates, bowing low as the stranger entered. To Adana's astonishment, they also bowed before her. The man spoke gently, "This is my home. Here you and your child will find rest." Adana slept that night on a mat softer than she had ever known, For the first time since her banishment, she dreamt not of sorrow, but of a faint, flickering hope. But who was this man that welcomed a stranger in the storm? In the wealthy compound, Adana found peace, but also silence. The stranger, whom the servants called Chief Okonkwo, gave her food, clothes, and safety. He never explained why he helped her. He only watched. Days turned to weeks. Adana rose early, swept the courtyard, cooked with the servants, and nursed her baby with patience. She never complained, never acted entitled. The chief often sat quietly, observing her humility and her strength. He asked nothing of her, but the silence felt heavy, as though he was testing something unseen. Adana wondered, was she safe here, or had she simply walked into another kind of trial? One evening, Chief Okonkwo broke his silence with a question that shook her heart.
The firewood crackled that evening as rain tapped gently on the rooftop. Chief Okonkwo sat on a carved stool, his staff resting by his side. Adana, busy pounding yam in the kitchen, heard his deep voice call her name. "Adana," he said, when she approached with lowered eyes. "Why did you not curse your husband? Why did you not return to your father's house to seek protection? Why do you endure your pain in silence?" The question cut deep. Adana's lips trembled as memories of humiliation flooded back. She looked down at her baby, sleeping peacefully against her chest. "I endure because of him," she whispered. "If I curse, my child curses too. If I fight, my child fights too. I will carry my sorrow, so my son will one day carry joy." The chief leaned back, stroking his beard. His eyes glimmered with something between admiration and sorrow. But his silence afterward was heavier than thunder, and Adana began to wonder, what secret was this man hiding behind his quiet eyes? One moonlit night, Adana awoke to the sound of drums. Soft, steady, hidden. She followed the rhythm to the courtyard and froze. Chief Okonkwo was alone, drumming beneath the iroko tree. His head was bowed, his eyes closed, and his hands beat the drum like one pouring out grief. She had never seen a chief so powerful, yet so broken. When he noticed her, he stopped abruptly. "You should be resting," he said firmly. But Adana dared to ask, "Why does a chief play the drum of sorrow?" His face darkened. "Because wealth cannot silence the ghosts of yesterday." He turned away, leaving her trembling. That night she could not sleep. What ghosts haunted a man so wealthy, so respected? She did not know that his past pain would soon collide with hers in a way the ancestors themselves had woven. Back in Umuocha, Obiarika the hunter walked with pride, but his house was empty of laughter. Ngozi, the woman who had poisoned his heart, had grown arrogant. She mocked him in front of others, and her beauty no longer pleased him. Villagers began whispering, "Where is Adana? Where is the baby?" Some suspected dark secrets. Some pitied Obiarika, but the elders shook their heads. One evening at the village square, a traveling trader passed through, speaking of the wealthy chief who had taken in a poor mother and her child. Obiarika's heart skipped. Could it be Adana? Could it be his son? His pride told him to ignore the rumor, but envy and regret began to gnaw at him like termites on wood. And when Obiarika decided to find out the truth, his steps would stir storms greater than the rain that cast Adana away. Weeks later, Chief Okonkwo gathered his household. He brought Adana and her baby before the elders who served him. "This woman," he announced, "was cast away in the storm, yet she carries herself with dignity greater than gold. She has not cursed her enemies nor spoken bitterness.
I declare before the ancestors, this woman and her child are under my protection." Gasps filled the courtyard. Adana bowed low, tears flowing. The chief raised her head gently. "Your tears will become blessings. Your child will walk with honor." The elders nodded in agreement. The baby stirred in her arms, letting out a tiny cry, as though the gods themselves marked the moment. But far beyond the compound walls, a figure lurked in the shadows. Obirika had come, his eyes blazing with rage and regret. And the confrontation that followed would shake both hearts and destinies. It was midnight when the guards at Chief Okonkwo's compound heard furious banging at the gate. Obirika stood there, drenched in sweat, his bow strung across his back. "Where is my wife? Where is my son?" he demanded. The guards hesitated, but the chief himself appeared, calm yet firm. "The woman you abandoned seeks no torment from you," Okonkwo said. Obirika's chest heaved with rage. "She is mine by tradition. The boy is mine by blood." Adana, hearing the commotion, rushed out with her baby. Her heart leapt in terror at the sight of the man who had cast her into the storm. Obirika's eyes softened briefly, but pride returned like a vulture. "Come with me, Adana," he ordered. The compound fell silent. All eyes turned to her, waiting to see if she would return to the man who once threw her into the rain. And in that silence, Adana opened her mouth to speak, but her words would change everything.
All eyes waited. The guards stood tense. The elders shifted uneasily. Chief Okonkwo leaned on his staff, silent but watchful. Adana's heart thundered like a festival drum. She looked at Obirika, her husband, her betrayer, the man who had left her to die in the storm. Memories of cold nights and tear-soaked days burned in her chest. She tightened her hold on her child, then raised her chin. "I will not go back," she said clearly. "A man who casts away his wife in the rain casts away his honor. A man who abandons his child in the storm abandons his lineage. I will not return to a house where love is poisoned." Gasps erupted. Obirika's face flushed with shame and fury. He had expected tears, perhaps even submission, but not defiance. The chief's voice then cut through the air. "The gods have heard her. What she has spoken is truth." But Obirika was not a man to bow so easily. His pride was a fire still burning. Obirika snarled. "You think wealth can hide your weakness, Chief Okonkwo? You steal another man's wife and call it justice?" The chief rose to his full height, his staff glowing faintly under the moonlight. His eyes blazed. "I did not steal. I sheltered what you threw away. And know this, Obirika, the gods punish men who despise the innocent." The air grew heavy, as if the ancestors themselves leaned in to listen. The guards closed in, but Adana stepped forward, her voice trembling yet strong. "Obirika, leave us, before your anger destroys what little remains of your name." But instead of leaving, Obirika drew his bow. Gasps filled the courtyard. He pointed the arrow not at the chief, but at Adana. "Better dead than shamed before the village," he spat. The baby stirred in her arms. Adana's knees weakened, and in that breathless moment, the arrow flew. The arrow cut through the air like lightning, but just before it struck, something unseen intervened. The arrow snapped in two, falling harmlessly at Adana's feet. A sudden wind howled through the courtyard, rattling the doors and extinguishing torches. The elders fell to their knees. "The ancestors!" they cried.
Chief Okonkwo lifted his staff high. His voice thundered. "You see now, Obiarika, the gods themselves defend the innocent. Your cruelty ends tonight." Obiarika staggered back, trembling, his pride shattered. He dropped his bow and fell to the ground, covering his face in shame. Adana clutched her child close, her tears flowing freely, but now they were tears of deliverance. And in the silence that followed, Chief Okonkwo revealed the truth that would change her life forever. Chief Okonkwo turned to Adana, his voice softer now. "You have asked why I watched you, why I tested your heart. The truth is this. I too was betrayed long ago. My wife abandoned me, and my child was taken by death. Since then, I have sought no other family, only silence." His eyes glistened. "But the night I found you in the storm, the ancestors whispered, 'Here is a woman wronged, yet unbroken. Here is a child meant for greatness.'" The elders nodded. The gods do not lie. Okonkwo stretched out his hand toward the baby. "This boy shall be raised with wisdom and honor. He will one day sit among leaders, and you, Adana, shall never again taste the bitterness of rejection." The compound erupted with ululations of joy. Women clapped, men struck their staves against the ground, and the baby let out a cry that sounded almost like laughter. But what would become of Obiarika, the man whose pride had led to his downfall? The elders of Umawocha gathered the next day. Obiarika stood before them, his head bowed in disgrace. They declared, "You who cast away your wife and son have cast away your own honor. Let your shame be a warning to every man who despises the innocent." Ngozi, the deceiver, fled the village in fear, never to be seen again. Adana, once mocked and cast aside, now walked with dignity. The villagers who had whispered against her now bowed in respect. The baby grew under the protection of Chief Okonkwo, who treated him as his own blood. Years later, when people told the story, they said, "The gods see the tears of the innocent. The woman in the rain was not abandoned, she was chosen. The stone the builders rejected became the corner of the house." And so Adana's sorrow ended in joy. Her child thrived, and her name lived on in songs told by firesides across the land. For in the land of Umawocha, people remembered forever that kindness and humility bring honor, but cruelty leads only to shame. And that is how a wealthy chief, on a stormy night, found a mother crying in the rain with her baby and changed her life forever.
Thanks for watching. Please share your comment in the comment section and subscribe to this channel.